have a husband.
Yeah, I know.
So you have a whole shield over you.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Your wedding
you.
looked so beautiful. You looked incredible.
No, it was like a vision executed.
Oh,
the
really?
vision, like the execution understood the assignment. Okay.
I can tell.
No, it was
when I
lovely.
saw it, I was like, okay, this is legit.
Yeah.
You had a great time.
Yeah. No, it was fun. And just seeing like so much family flying in, and I think even planning the wedding, because we talked a lot, and you were telling me about a couple of things even leading up to the wedding. But I think I had to be very conscious, like about what the joy around the day is, because I think as women, you stress out about. I was stressing out about plate settings.
Really?
I was like, what if this plate is not matching the cups? And then I started thinking back about the weddings I've been to. I couldn't remember the plates.
Can't remember anything.
I said, this does not matter. I focused on the things that were important to me, and it was a blast.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. So how has married life been so far?
It's been good.
Is it like what you thought it was going to be like?
You know, like going into marriage, I think I'm so grateful for like the season of being single and enjoying it. Yes. I'm grateful that I wasn't single and in like anxiety, you know, or like, oh God, when is this going to happen? Mm-hmm. Yes, I had moments of like, oh, when is this, you know, when are you going to bring this? But I enjoyed my single season. I traveled. I took myself out on dates. did things with friends, you know. So going into marriage, I think one of the things I first recognized that, you know how sometimes people get married and they're sad? It's like they're mourning their singleness. Yes. And, you know, like, oh, you have to transition into this new life. I was like, oh, no, I'm ready for the transition, child. I lived my best life. But I think recognizing that even how you treat the season of being single is so valuable in going into a marriage, you know. But I think marriage has really taught me, teaching me something about God that I think is so crucial to me, because going into marriage, one of the things God was telling me about is how this union is like almost like the one thing that mirrors the mystery of oneness in God. Yeah. Like, you know how the word says like the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, they are one, but they are three persons, but they are one. Yeah. And then in a marriage, you and your husband, it says like the two shall become one. We're two different people. And what I'm learning is in my honor to that, in how I honor him, in how I love him, and how I respect him, it plays a role in everything else I do. Because as a pastor, I think many people, like my parents are not pastors, but I'm friends with like pastors' kids and things like that. And it's unfortunate that there is this, you know, consistent narrative of how when, you know, pastor's kid feels neglected by their parents while they're serving the world, while they're doing all these things. But I learned just how God values everything, like recognizing like, no, being a pastor and laying my life for other people does not change how I honor my husband, does not change how I love my husband, does not change how I'm there for him. And so it's just showing me something in God that, you know how they say charity begins at home? Yes. And how everything, like, it's not always about the big things that you're doing, but God is also watching you in the things behind closed doors. And so, you know, it's been good. It's teaching me things in my personal life. It's teaching me things about God. And yeah, it's been good.
Marriage is your first ministry.
It is. It really is.
Important to God.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's good that you're already thinking about that in the future in terms of like, how I want to be with my children. And I want to that role is fulfilled.
They know their love. They know they're like, yeah.
That's important. That's good that you're thinking about that. Did you have someone guide you on how to be a wife? Because that is something that it definitely is something you have to learn how to do. It's not easy. Yeah. And you do need the Lord. You do need the Lord.
No, I think exposure has also been very helpful. Even though like my mom, you know, was a single mom, there were things that she imparted in me, even in her time of being married. My Pastor Sarah, like I've watched her and I see how she handles, like, she honors her home. She values her home. And I think watching people is one of the greatest lessons, just because it's not what you heard about them, it's what you can see, and being exposed to her as well and her home. And then I have like friends who are married, and just watching people, I think has been really pivotal in how it shaped what I desire to see in my home.
That's so good. Is there anything you wish that you knew before you got married that you just kind of realized, oh, this is something I wish I kind of knew?
What did I wish I knew? You know what? I wouldn't say I didn't know it before, but I think in marriage, it's like, girl, chill out.
Yeah.
Because, people say this thing, and I understand it to a degree. And they talk about how, like, you want to be two whole people before you come into a marriage.
Oh, right.
And I get that, concept. We both of you are 100%, but it's not accurate. We're like 85, because we got issues,
Got issues.
And the thing is, like, recognizing, like, there are some things, I think for me, what should be 100% is knowing the foundation you stand upon, right? I feel like my biggest thing in marriage is knowing that I am submitted to the Lord. I am submitted to, like, learning. I'm not, I'm not given into like ego or pride. That to me, I think is more crucial than this idea of perfection. Like, before you get married, make sure you're 100%. Who is 100% home?
Right.
Everybody has, because I think that there are times in life you don't even know what's a brokenness until you're in an environment that brings it out. It's like sometimes you don't even recognize that you might have, like, I'm someone I'm very, like, I don't, it's not like I don't get angry, but it's not like I'm very joyful.
You are
like,
very
I'm
joyful.
really very joyful. And I always used to say, like, girl, I just thank God that I just don't really have anger in me.
Mm-hmm.
But one day, somebody brought that thing out. And I was like, oh my gosh.
It was there.
It was there. So I think learning, like, that you are, even when God puts you together with someone, there are keys that is locked in that person that unlocks you to a deeper dimension of yourself.
I like that.
There are things that in my husband has touched, like, he's healed wounds I didn't even know existed. And vice versa. Like, we are able to complement each other in a way that we evolve together, and I think learning that, Stephanie, if you see something ugly that you don't like, it's all right. It's okay, chill out, like, but surrender to the process of healing and growing and evolving in that way.
That's so beautiful. And praying for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, people, I think, sometimes underestimate how much prayer is so important once you get married.
How was, like, even in your marriage, like, what did you, like, learn? Like, what was something that you're like, what?
I didn't realize how much of my time I would have to sacrifice because, like you were saying, in terms of, like, being single, you have your own rhythm.
True.
And I was spending so much time, like, with God and doing things on my own and all these long spa days with myself. And it's like, no, your time is not yours alone.
Yeah.
You have to share it. I think also in terms of just settling any kind of disagreements, because when you're married, you're not able to leave. I can't go back to my apartment.
Right.
I have to stay there. And I don't want to be walking around with an attitude.
Yeah.
So having to be humble and, like, swallow my pride and bring my issues to God was something new for me. And even if I was in the bathroom crying to God, I would cry and then do what I have to do, which is face the situation. And the Lord always worked it out. So just seeing how God's hand worked in the relationship was so powerful to me, because I didn't have any role models. My mom was a single parent. I never got to see how couples ended arguments. I can, of course, see how arguments happen, but I never got to see how they ended and who approaches who.
Who fixes what?
Who fixes it, It's like, we can be mad for a whole month. So I had to decide to say, it doesn't matter how he is behaving. Like, that has nothing to do with how I choose to behave.
That's real.
And that took a lot of growth, but we're so much better now because I think, he's also seen that humility and it also impacts how he treats me as well. And it's gotten a lot.
I love
smoother.
that.
Yes.
Because what you said is so real. Like even your style, like how different people have different styles of resolving things. Because even for me, if I'm irritated, I get quiet because I need to process, right? I'm like, I need to think about what happened. You know, did I play a role? Or is this all your fault? And my husband is like, let's talk through it. And I'm like, I don't want to talk right now. I want to be quiet and process. And he's like, so are we over this? I'm like, I'm not sure yet. I am processing and you are interrupting my processing time. And it's like finding that compromise of like, okay, let's talk about this and let's laugh. And, you know, he's a very like, come on, babe. Like, because for him, nothing is an argument. We are just having we're talking it out.
Right.
And I'm over here pouting like, you know, but that's real. That's real.
Yeah. And it's like no one's way is right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's just different. And just your thinking can't be too long.
Right. Because I'll be over there. Because to your point, right? Like when you're used to like being independent, I could think all day with the Lord. I could be like, 12 p.m. So God, this happened. 6 p.m. What do you think, God?
Right,
But now you're with someone who's like, look, 3 p.m. we got lunch.
Exactly.
So you need to speed this up.
And you can't have any resentment about it.
Nothing.
You
Nothing.
have to just drop it and move with it. So do you think that there's anything that's really important biblically to incorporate into your marriage?
Yeah. I think I truly believe that male and female, wife and husband, that it's not just a title, but it's an office in God. It's an expression of the nature of God. You know, there is something that a man expresses about who God is that the woman is not supposed to. There's something that the woman expresses about who God is. I remember like even as we were getting married, we were talking about gender roles from a biblical perspective, like even when the Bible talks about husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church, but you would also see in the Bible then if God is talking about the husband almost as the Lord himself, the Lord calls himself a vine dresser. He's the one that takes care of the garden, the environment. And and he was saying, and even in my conversation with my husband, he was like, as a man, my role is to create an environment for you to thrive in.
Wow. That
if you're failing in life, I failed because that means I didn't create an environment that was healthy enough for you. And I think even as a woman, every time we talk about like the Proverbs 31 woman, but that woman was a boss. She woke up early. She had businesses. She was running things. Her kids loved her. Yeah. But she was a boss, like all around. But I'm learning that the beauty of a woman is in submission.
Okay.
And not submission that has this negative tone to it, but submission from the place of respect. Like submission, because the woman, even when the Bible, there's a scripture that calls the woman a weaker vessel, and it's been abused. It's been used against the woman. But I truly believe that the only reason that God says, or there's this idea that she's the weaker vessel is because it's in all her power. She's called to be vulnerable to the man.
That's what it is.
So it's not that she's weak,
actual weakness,
but she's powerful, but vulnerable because she's vulnerable to his leadership in some degree. And I think for me as a woman is recognizing that women have such a power in God. Every powerful move of God, there are women at the forefront of it. Because women, even in this, one of the things the Lord was teaching me is that the same way women in the natural are carriers, like they birth things, they bring life to things. Spiritually, it's the same thing. That women, whenever there's a spiritual move, there's a move of God, even in the natural, there are women in the forefront because they express the nature of God to bring forth.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's recognizing like, okay, I know my power as a woman, but in marriage, I'm not here to struggle for power. I'm not trying to fight power with my husband, right? But there is I respect him. I don't only see him as my best friend or, my lover, but I also see him as the head of the household. I honor him in that way. And I think that is so critical. And it's also the reason why before a person gets married, make sure you're marrying the right person. Because if you're marrying someone that's a fool, then it's going to bring frustration because now a fool is leading your home, right?
Yes.
But I think for me, it's just learning that there is beauty in submission, and submission in the willingness to say, you know what, babe, I trust you. Does not mean we're not going to talk things through. We're not going to talk as partners. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have healthy dialogues or healthy debates, but that there is a respect and honor that I give you as my husband.
And it's a covering. It's
a covering, yeah.
Factor for yourself.
How can you fight with your covering? Like, you know what? I don't want this blanket right now.
I want to be cold.
I want to be cold. Like, no, you know. Yeah. But I think that there is such negativity to submission. I think it's because of the way culture looks at it.
Yes.
Culture gives it a definition that has nothing to do with the Bible. Culture gives this idea that submission, it has the image of a wife slaving in the kitchen all day. Then when she's done slaving in the kitchen, she's prepping what's for dinner for Christmas.
Yes,
like that's her life.
Like a doormat.
Her life is limited to the kitchen and cleaning. And it's like, no, like there's so much more.
Or that she has absolutely no say whatsoever.
No say, no ambition, no vision for her life. Yeah. No.
Not that way at all.
At all.
It takes strength to submit.
Yeah.
It takes strength to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a power, not a weakness.
Exactly.
Now, did you go to premarital counseling? Is that something you think is important?
I do think it's valuable. We had premarital counseling with my pastors. And so I do think there's value in there because it allows a third party to kind of like zoom out, you know, because I think when both of you are only dialoguing within yourself, it's so zoomed in. And there are things that other people can like call out and say, hey, what about this? Or, you know, what about that? So I do believe there's a lot of value into it.
I like that idea of zooming out. That's good.
Yeah.
Because they're able to see the whole picture.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. Premarital counseling, I definitely think is absolutely important just in learning about one another. There are things that you may never be able to have someone else address because sometimes something may even come differently from a third party that your partner may not take it too well when you say it.
Right.
Like hearing someone else say it could be like an aha moment. It's like, I've been saying that for the last
Listen.
How do you think people should incorporate or can incorporate the Lord into their relationship?
I think it's organic when both people are surrendered to God.
Okay.
You know, when both people recognize, like, I am not the head of my life, there is a head over my life, right? And so when that's there, it's easy. And I think that's when even sometimes, like some of the advice I got, even in leading into marriage, people are like, you know what, there's some arguments you don't have face-to-face, you have on your knees. And it makes sense when both people are submitted, because if I pray about something, you can hear the voice of God about what needs to be fixed or what needs to be changed, you know? So I do think it's organic, you know, when it's already there, when both people have a personal relationship with the Lord. And then you come together and it's natural, you know?
That's true. What if someone is dating someone who they feel like this person says that they're a Christian, but they don't really act like they're a Christian? I personally have a very close relationship with God. And I want to see if I can bring God into this relationship before marriage. Do you think that there's anything that a person could do?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously like it does have its complexities, because the job of the Holy Spirit is to draw. It's like a person really coming into a deeper place in relationship with God is really between them and the Holy Spirit. It's really that. I think the only role the partner can play is by what they live, right? When you're so authentic to yourself, you draw them into that, right? When you're so authentic to like, hey, babe, you know, I want us to study the Bible together, you know, and they study it. Now, my advice is not even about the things you do, but it's about the posture of your heart when you do it, because it is not your job to lead anyone to Christ. It is your job to reflect Christ. And so to not be frustrated if the person is not moving on a pace you would like, or to not be frustrated with, you know, when I'm trying to sing or worship, they don't want to worship, because that's not your job. Your job is to reflect the authenticity of your relationship with Christ. And you could bring people into it, but that does not mean, so my biggest thing is the posture of your heart. And then before any of that, to know that God is like in this thing with you. Like God is saying that, hey, this is like I'm giving you the approval, the okay about your spouse, you know, or about this person of interest. And when you know that God is with you and whoever you're dating, to be patient with people, you know?
That's so true. And for those of you who are married to men who maybe don't know God, and at the time maybe you didn't realize how important that was. I know I have some ladies that maybe have children, and now that they have children, they're like, oh my goodness, I need all of us to have a relationship with God, but my husband is not interested. What do I do?
Yeah.
Like Stephanie is saying, if you live a lifestyle where you are submitted and you just are patient and loving with him and you show Christ through your actions, that can influence him to be interested. And, you know, problems come up.
Yeah.
He may come running to you and asking about your little prayers.
And
right?
it's so true, because I think that, you know, one of the ways when the Lord, well, even in the Bible, right, when it talks about love, now the Bible says God is love, right? And when Paul was defining what love is, the very first thing he says is love is patient. And we have lost the art of patience in life, you know? And it's not to say, there's certain things that for me, it's like, oh, deal breaker, you know, like when it's things like abuse, you know, like there's some things that you're like, all right, now the guy,
can't be patient.
Come on
that.
now. Yeah. But when it has to do with someone else's journey, like you have to trust, like you can only reflect. Because I tell people, I'm like, if you are the only, you know, image of God I will see, would I want to know him? So it's really it's your life. You know, there's something you exude. There's something you reflect that can draw someone to say, wait, you know, I'm really curious. And it draws them into this place of a deeper
hunger. This video is sponsored by myself and my luxury fragrance line, Fine Forever Fragrances. We have 3 very elegant, feminine, and unique fragrances that you would love. 2911 is our debut fragrance, which is a perfect feminine, everyday, daytime, or date night fragrance. It exudes mystery, elegance, and warmth. Silent Storm is another fragrance that we have, and that fragrance is a decadent gourmand fragrance. It's rich, it's smooth, it's refined, and it has notes of sea salt, caramel, and it gives off an alluring and captivating impression when you wear it. And our final fragrance, Mustard Seed, is a sweet aquatic floral with pineapple, jasmine, and musk. It's perfect for brunch with the girls or basking in the sunshine. It is a sophisticated and memorable fragrance. So if you love to be the best smelling woman in the room, then you have to have these in your fragrance collection. Visit fineforever.com and use the code Dr. Daff for 10% off of your fragrances to support this show. Thank you.